Where's that Maxie boy?
That's Max.
This is Max, and this is his podcast.
Max. That's funny. No. Oh man. Well, I'm Matthew,
and I'm Adam.
Welcome to Iron Sharpens Iron. So we've already done this podcast once. Through early podcast mistakes, we've realized we had to reshoot these episodes because of improper terms that podcast sites don't allow. Not that we're explicit, but just the world today doesn't allow certain things online. And our testimonies are filled with some stuff. And we didn't know that. So here we are re-recording. We're trash. And so, yeah, this is our first episode technically. We've already recorded like 5, but like this is our first posted episode that you all will see as listeners. And so we're excited to kick off this podcast. We have an idea and a vision behind it. And we wanted to take the first episode to explain why me and Adam did it, why we wanted to do it, why we might feel qualified, even though loads of people could do the same exact thing we're doing. We're not saying we're better than anyone, but we just want to kind of just introduce ourselves on this first one. So this is our testimony video, testimony pod. This is who we are, what we are about, and we're going to try to do it in a condensed format, because last time we said condensed and it ended up being 3 episodes. Yeah. And so let's see if we can do that real smooth.
I can do mine. I can do mine literally in 60 seconds because I've been trained to do so. But I can't. I could. It's just something I'm able to do. But obviously 3 episodes. I didn't know we did 3 episodes.
Yeah, it was 3 episodes. We did from birth to college. College and then after college. And so
that was a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. And so I think we should go through like the struggles we had in our childhood real quick. Just like 2 minutes, like list them, you know what I'm saying? And then college is a little bit more important. It's how we met each other. And then after that, you know, a little bit on our since then, you know?
Yeah. Cool.
Hold up, pause. For all the video viewers, you saw Adam's dog. I got to show my dog.
Well, you saw his
welcome
back of his
welcome
head.
to the outfit. There's my dog. Hi, Finnegan. There he is. He's like, what are you waking me up for? Oh, man. All right. Cool. I feel satisfied now.
That'll be a blooper.
Yeah, probably not. I'll probably leave it in. Yes. This is complete raw. We're not editing anything out. Everything we say stays in.
Oh, yeah.
Says something inappropriate. Check. Alrighty. Adam, kick us off, dude. You were born.
I was born September 10th, 1988. Man, long time ago.
In a galaxy far away in Arizona.
That's right. Actually, no. I was born and raised in California, not Arizona.
Oh, my bad. California.
Best friend, he doesn't know where I was born.
I knew it. I raised in Arizona. Anyways, so what happened in your childhood?
Man, I would say my childhood was, it was fun. Like, I had a great childhood. I have no complaints to say I was raised wrong. I didn't have my parents, or I didn't have something. I was always provided for. And I'll say that right now. Like, my father always provided. The only thing he didn't provide is time. And my father was always busy with work. Yeah. He's a functioning alcoholic, and he always tried to give us everything we needed. So throughout my time in high school and my time growing up, I think I tried more than anything to make him proud, because my brother was like he was the epitome of a son, because he got great grades and he was good, and I had ADHD. My parents always got letters from my teachers saying Adam can't stay still, and Adam can't focus, and Adam has ADD, and it's like I always tried more than anything to try and appease my parents, try to appease my dad, and it never worked. And so I think in high school I just kind of gave up, started doing my own thing, and it led me down a different path, or a dark path, I should say, because I started getting in with like gangs and the whole crowd and how that works, and stealing and cheating, and it was not God focused.
Yeah.
And when I think about who I am today and the guy that I am today, it's because I didn't have what a lot of people like yourself had growing up, which is church. Like
Yeah.
my parents don't know Jesus. Um, Nobody in my family knew Jesus, and so like trying to navigate life was all about what my dad would call like the epitome of was it the American dream.
Okay.
A car, a good
Yeah.
job, a house, and a family. You're always trying to get those things, and after those things, like you're good. And so I very quickly, like life just started turning right after high school. But we'll go into that after we start talking about your childhood. But
Yeah.
yeah, pretty normal childhood. Didn't grow up in a church. Did not know Jesus. Didn't know who he was. And then probably if you told me who he was, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guy I was.
It's like that's the community you lived in too.
For sure. It was
Yeah.
very, yeah, yeah. Moved
Yeah.
around a lot too, so it didn't help at
Yeah.
all. Always trying to find new friends, always trying to, make people think I'm cool and do the cool thing, and it was not good at all.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Well, I'm the complete opposite. I was born August 27th, 1998. Do the math. We're 10 years apart. That's a reality.
Ayo.
No biggie there. But no, yeah, I grew up in a Christian household, man. My dad was there. My mom was there. My dad was not a workaholic, but he was at work a lot during my childhood. I was homeschooled. So at second grade, after second grade year, before I hit third grade, they pulled me out, and I was homeschooled with my brother and sister. And so it was a very tight knit family type vibe. But then through that, my social skills lacked a lot. I actually became an introvert, type thing, and held to myself a lot. Got into guitar and skateboarding because no one knew what I felt, because I'm an introvert. And I got into like the punk rock type music and stuff like that. And that was my identity. But I still was going to church, answering all the questions the right way, being that perfect Sunday school boy type thing, because my dad was an elder when I was a child at the church we were going to. In middle school, we switched churches, and he was the youth minister. So he was my youth minister and my dad. And then one day I picked up basketball through circumstances instead of skateboarding. And he was also my basketball coach eventually throughout high school. And so my dad went from being at work all the time to prioritizing my life, actually, and being in my life a lot, which is awesome, unless you have a punk attitude like me. And I was like, man, my dad's everywhere. He's everywhere all the time. And I didn't like it. Obviously, looking back, I appreciate it. Not to say that is the same attitude I have now, but I grew up in a community that was in the Bible Belt. I grew up in Kentucky, born and raised here, so it was a very different scene compared to what you went through. But at the same time, it didn't keep me away from all the bad things. My best friend growing up lived 2 doors down, and he
Not three.
not 3. That's the band. Good band. We made that joke the first podcast we recorded. Anyways, and so he exposed me, man, to everything bad. The only thing we didn't do was drugs, basically. I was in the party life, kind of transitioning out of high school. I'll go ahead and kind of transition out, and then we'll come back to you. So throughout high school, I started to go to parties without my parents knowing. I was starting to build my foundation for alcoholism, which kind of solidified during college, which we can talk about in a little bit. And I started getting addicted to things that were not of God. As someone who grew up in a church mindset, I knew it was wrong, but it still took me over. And so I had a couple addictions, which I'm not going to get into it right now because we have a long series of podcasts. Like, we're going to get into this type of stuff. This is just our quick testimonies. And so I got into some addictions. It was not healthy. And it caused my mentality to go downhill. I applied for a college, Cincinnati Christian University, CCU, RIP. But it was awesome because I toured with a music group called Solid Rock for 2 years. And I thought I was going to go to college for music, to be a music minister. And the basketball coach at CCU said, dude, join the team. You'll be on a full ride. And so I had my music degree paid for through 2 things I loved, music and basketball. That was my identity. And this is where my whole world just whoosh, flipped upside down, because I went for one last visit right before the school semester was getting ready to start. And the basketball team invited me out to a party, right? I was staying the night and they said, dude, let's go to party. Let's go get on that level that they seek every weekend. And for some reason, this time I wasn't about it. Even though throughout my whole high school time, going to parties, getting drunk all the time, this time I wasn't about it. And I actually called my dad. It was like 12 o'clock in the morning. And Cincinnati, Paris, it's about a 2-hour trip. He drove in the middle of the night, came and got me. And through that, I was not going to college. I said, screw college. And I lost my identity. Went down a deep spiral of wanting to take my life. And there was methods there that almost were implemented. Ended up not happening through a phone call from someone at the right time. My best friend growing up, he just happened to call me. I don't know if he truly even knows to this day that he did that, but he called me and he just wanted to play video games and eat pizza, and something simple like that. Decided for me to just say, I'll give it one more night. And then just through that, some things started to look different. Because during that time, not only did I lose college, I lost my grandpa too on my mom's side. Grandpa Jim, he was an awesome guy. I really enjoyed him. But while we were in Ohio, this is where college starts to happen again. While we were in Ohio, I get a call from, I don't know if I called her or if she called me, but a buddy that we went to college with, she called me. And I had a previous relationship with her. And so I was like, whatever, I'll answer. And I said, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to college. She's like, well, have you tried Johnson? Never heard of Johnson University at all. Don't know why, but I was focused on CCU. My parents met there, dated, and got married because of CCU. I wanted to go there. And I was like, whatever, I'll try it out. I applied like 3 weeks late for the academic guidelines to get accepted. My ACT score was like a 12 or 13. I can't remember. It was bad. And somehow I got in. By the grace of God, I got in. And then the college experience happened, which we'll get into after you say your next bit.
Yeah. Man, after high school for me was all about finding the pleasures of the world for me. Like I was very focused on trying to find my wife for some dumb reason. Probably because I was trying to attain what my father had. So I always was trying to go job to job, trying to find a great job. Also going girlfriend to girlfriend, trying to find the right wife. And at my age, it just was, for me, fun. Like I just had fun dating and enjoyed. I wanted the commitment. I wanted to be in a committed relationship, but it never worked out for great reasons, obviously, because thank the Lord that I never married any of my ex-girlfriends. No offense to any of you who are out there today.
If you're listening.
If you're listening. But I just was not I was not the right guy. And so through high school and then into my early 20s, I got into partying super hard because my father's an alcoholic, and he always said his constant quote was, "If you're gonna party at the house. At least I know you're not gonna go out there and drive drunk and blah blah blah. Let's just bring the party to my place." And that for me was the epitome of like everyone loved me because hey,
the party, bro, your dad loved it.
Let's party at my place every weekend was, hey, let's bring over everyone to my place, and my dad's cool with it. My parents are cool with it. So I was the cool guy who had the cool parents who everyone partied. And so I had a lot of fun in my early 20s. I can't remember 21, honestly. My 21st birthday, I to this day do not know what it all entailed. The only thing I know is I ended up in Vegas, and I couldn't tell you what that night looked like. I couldn't tell you the things I said or any of those things. And I thought that was cool at the time. And now I look back on, wow, I lost a period of my life where I couldn't tell you what half the things I did in my life, but I was doing them for the great reasons. I was having fun, and I was, I was living life. And that kept me going all the way through my mid-20s, partying, girlfriends, drugs, all the things. Like I was in it to have fun. And then life hit me real hard one time. And I mean, it gut punched me. It was about 26 years old, 27 years old. I finally was in a committed relationship with one of my best friends from all the way growing up. Like her and I were best friends. And I was thinking, I had the ring. I was proposed to her.
Yeah.
And I found out she was cheating on me.
Mm.
And that to me, first off, was like a huge blow because I was ready. I was ready to grow up. I was ready to move on with my life
Mm-hmm.
and be the man I was supposed to be. So then that hits me. That same year, my grandma passes away, and like that for me, man, my grandma was one of those people you could always call, and she'd always tell you how proud she was of you. It
Yeah.
shouldn't matter what you're doing. You could be in a mess of a life, but she'd still say how proud she was of you. She was my biggest supporter, my biggest fan.
Yeah.
And I loved her so much, and she passed, and that hit hard. And then on top of all that, I get home from a work trip, and my father immediately tells me that my mother and him aren't doing well, and I was put off. Like, wait, at that time, 25 years of marriage, you've never told me
Yeah.
that you and mom weren't doing well. I'm like, what does that even mean? And he's just like, we're just not doing well. Come to find out, he used me as the catalyst to tell my mother that he's been cheating on her.
Mm.
And that whole mishigosh started coming out. And so all this is happening to me. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What,
Same time, same moment. Yeah.
what happened to the fun in life? What happened to the good things that were happening? All of it just quickly turned in my life. And at that time, the woman who cheated on me, she'd introduced me to CCV, and that was my home church. That is my home church. It's where I found Jesus, and the reason being for that is because when all of that went down, I got a call from my aunt, and it's the same way a phone call happened for you. This happened to me
Yeah.
at the right time because I was done with life. Like I was done. There was no pushing back on this because I remember being on the phone with my aunt, and I was just bawling my eyes out because I'm like, there's no reason.
Yeah.
Why am I living right now? Nothing is good. Everything sucks. All the pain, and no, I can't get over it. Like there was that all of the highs, all of those things are temporary, and eventually you realize that it all fades, and you're still left with your misery and pain.
Yeah.
And I just remember being in this ball of pain where I just couldn't get out of it. And she calls me, and she's just like, "We need to talk." I don't know why, but we need to talk. And I'm like, "This is a random time to call me because
Yeah.
I'm over the hill, bro. This is not happening."
Mm-hmm.
And through that, and I think it was more just trying to get me not to do anything stupid.
Yeah.
She pushed me to try and go to church, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna challenge God, because if God is so good, He's gonna do this over the weekend. So this weekend, I'm gonna go to church, and if I don't feel anything, if I don't, if nothing happens, I'm done. Period.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna hear from me again. It's over. And I look back going, man, I challenged God, and God definitely came through.
Yeah. He showed up.
He showed up, because that weekend I go to church, and everything that I'm going through, it feels like, is being talked about. The misery of life, the not having purpose part of my life, it's all being talked about. I remember like just listening to like Reckless Love, and all these songs, and I'm just like, maybe there's more. Maybe, just maybe. And that little thing of hope started to begin in my heart of like, maybe there's more to life than what I was living.
Yeah.
And maybe after all this said and done, maybe there's still something here. And just that was enough for me as my addictive personality to be like, man, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, I think I want to start coming to church more often. Like, I was going every so often with my ex girlfriend, but like after that weekend, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let me see what this is about. And I started going every weekend to every service,
Hmm.
just wanting to be a part of that church.
Yeah.
And I remember finding purpose. I remember God just like giving me all the things to give me a foothold on my life finally. And I remember just not feeling like I couldn't breathe anymore. Like I feel like
Hmm.
I could feel like I could breathe again. The weight was coming off my shoulders. God was starting to like give me this purpose in my life, and it was so drastic the change that was made. And it was because I challenged God, and He showed up, and I
Yeah.
remember that, and I'll always remember that because God saved my life
Yeah.
and gave me a new life. And then one day, my neighborhood pastor just decided to talk to me about what it meant to be baptized, and I laughed because I'm like, bro, you don't know my past, like, you don't
Yeah.
know who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and at that point in time, I was still doing the
That.
whole
Yeah. Yeah.
party
Yeah.
thing. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get this straight. I was that that Christian you talk about at church where on the weekends he parties, or on the weekdays he parties, and on the weekends he goes
Yeah.
to church.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was that guy. Okay,
Mhm.
and I was laughing because I'm like, yeah, man, like I love God, but I still love partying,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and now I can do both and feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got side piece.
Yeah, but I was like, yeah, like I want to be on this because I know what it's like to be at the end of my rope. I know what it's
Yeah.
like to be at the end, and I just now found the piece of Jesus's cloth that I want to hang on to, and I'm like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's go for it.
Hmm.
And so October 11th of 2014, I took the plunge, man. I was like, I'm in. I'm all in for Jesus.
Yeah.
And when I did that, and that whole baptism scene of raising, dying with Christ and being raised anew,
Hmm.
like that for me means more than anything because
Oh
like
yeah.
I needed to die. Like
Mm.
I needed. No, I don't mean it in the sense that like that, but my old life needed to. It needed to
Yeah.
die so that I could be raised anew again, so I could be
Hmm.
fresh again, so that
Yeah.
I could find Jesus all over. Like I could find Him. And
Hmm.
man, when that happened, I remember that day like it was yesterday because I came up from the water, man, and I was just like,
This is happening. This is it. Yeah.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like I remember just being alive, man, and I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. Like let's do life. And God just from that point on just started like putting things on my heart, and we'll go into that obviously, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the biggest part of my life that like I was 27 years old when this all happened, and that is the crux of my life. That's where things started to change.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important that we both have those moments in our life of we had a purpose or a goal that we thought was it. And then
mm,
God used a situation to not 180, but pivot the way he wanted us to go. And so, um, for me, it was when I transitioned to this college thing. I was young. I was 17 as a freshman in college, which is way different than you because you tried a residency program. You want to talk about that for like 2 seconds before we
oh
get into the
yeah,
college thing? Because like you had residency and
yeah.
then before that, college then happened. So you got to talk about that.
Failure is what happened. Okay, because I wasn't focused on God. Period. Like I was
Yeah.
still doing that Half Life thing.
Hmm.
And you know what God says, what it says in the Bible, when you lay your foundation on sand,
Hmm.
your building's gonna fall over.
You
And
crashed.
I crashed and fell. So I didn't know how to get into ministry because I wanted to. Like from that moment, I was like, man, I want to be in ministry because I'd
Hmm.
started serving on the kids team. I started loving Jesus. I started like
Yeah.
I was like, man, I want to be a kids pastor. I think I want to do this thing called
Hmm.
ministry. How do I do that? And CCV was like, hey, we got a residency program you can try,
Yeah.
and it's not for like a degree or anything, but you afterwards are shaped for ministry.
Hmm.
And I was like, cool, that sounds amazing. So I started doing it, and I mean, stupid me, uh, I decided to do this, but then at the same time, a girl came into my life, and I was like, oh, okay, so I can, do this and that, and this sounds great. Maybe God put her in my life.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I started in this residency program. You're given a host home that you
Mm-hmm.
obviously you that is your house. You live with them, but that is
Mm-hmm.
your house. And my dumb self decided it was a great idea to not spend the night at my host home's house and spend the night at my girlfriend's house most of the time,
Yeah.
which we can all obviously put two to two together. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't living a Christ-like life. Let's just put that out there. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good idea. And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually they caught on, obviously. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna call the host home and they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
hey, how's it going with him? And they were like, well, great, but like he wasn't spending the night at our house.
Yeah.
And then that's when they put two and two together. You know that whole like, what is that, like a meme or something where it's like, they'll never know. They'll never know. And
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get called into the church, and it's that scene where there's a one table and two chairs, and you can only guess one chair is for me, the other is the president of the program. And I was like, well, this is it.
Yeah. Yep.
So much for my run with Jesus.
And that was it.
and it wasn't. That was beautiful. But like as soon as I sat down, I obviously was like, yeah, this is what happened. And I just spilled my whole life. I was like, man, I'm sorry. And CCV was like, man, that takes a lot of guts. We didn't even have to say anything. You came to us pretty much after we put you in a room, but like you willingly told us what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, what do I do now? They're like, you can come back later and do the program. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do until then? And through the program, I'd met some great people, honestly. And one of my friends at the time was like, hey, have you thought about college? And I was like, you're funny. I'm like 18 years old. I'm like 28 years old. And me going back to college sounds like not a very good idea. I barely got through high school. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And man, like you just talked about how God's circumstances and how he got you to get into that. The same thing. It's 10 years out of high school. I barely passed high school with like a GPA of like a 1.5. Like I was the worst student. And now here I am applying for college. I was like, you're funny. I'm going to try this and they're going to laugh at my application. And so I go through the application. I get an email from the administration person, and they're like, hey, since you went through CCV and we've heard a lot about you, actually, we're going to go ahead and waive your application fee. And at first I was like, what? You heard about me, and now you're going to waive my application fee? That'd be cool. Financially, I'm struggling anyways. So admissions done, financial aid goes through, done. And then next thing you know, I get an email saying, hey, you're in. We'd love for you to come start in fall to Johnson University 2016. And I was like, no way.
Shut up.
You mean in Tennessee, right? Like I live in Arizona currently. And so like this was like the fork in the road situation in my life. And God was like, you can clearly choose. You can live this life that you're living now, and it ain't gonna work. You know where it's gonna go. Or you can take away from everything, go away from everything you know, and move to Tennessee to follow me more. Yeah. And I was like, this is a really hard decision. Not go. I'm going. Goodbye, everyone and everything. Yeah. And I left Johnson University in 2016 to go to college.
Yeah.
At 28 years old.
That's I was 17. You were 28. Now I was 17 because my birthday falls funny with the school semesters. So I was 17 when I started, but soon after I turned 18. So 10 years apart, and we were not roommates the first year. Nope. We were in a class together that helped people that academically sucked. It was a requirement. Like if you went in with a certain grade from high school, you had to be in his class, and so. That's the first moment we kind of met. We didn't really put two and two together at that point. So like all freshman year, we both had roommates in and out. You had two, I had one. They were not the best for our situation that we needed. They're awesome people. All of them have their lives, but for us, it was not a vibe. just to
No, it
speed
was
through.
okay. That's fair.
No, for you had one roommate that if he didn't leave, we would have never been together. But he had
Yeah,
bigger and better
facts.
plans that he wanted to commit to.
Yeah,
And
facts.
he's an awesome guy, big dude. I wish I was. No, I don't wish I was that big. Dude was like what 5'11", 280 of muscle, like
Yeah,
a big boy.
yeah. No, he was short. He wasn't even 5'11", bro. He was more like 5'5", and just talky. I
Well,
remember
whatever it
that.
is, he
But
was a little
anyways,
nuke of gas from that protein. That's what I'm saying.
facts,
His protein
facts.
farts, bro. Anyway, sorry.
Wow,
Not to
you
trash
went
him.
there.
Sorry.
You went there.
And so at the end of freshman year, we're both like at this point of no roommates, kind of,
Yeah.
and grades weren't the best for both of us. And it was kind of like we don't want to be at college really anymore. And then the first name drop of the podcast, Kelly Estes, what a woman, right? We'll name drop
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
She saved both of our college careers by herself. We'll put it that way.
Mama K. Yep.
Mama K did awesome work. She basically said, "Hey, you need a roommate, and I know this guy. Come to my office this time, meet him." And when I walk in the office, I see Arizona boy, spiked hair, plaid shirt type thing, and I've met you like through that class. I was like, "Oh, this guy, right?" And I was like, "Let's give it a shot." Like I'm tired of not having purpose. Because freshman year, also my girlfriend that I was going to propose to at the time broke up with me. And so I was just like, I need to commit to college. And so then we hit sophomore year. So let's, before we hit 40 minutes, finish sophomore year. No,
Yeah.
college, all of college. We have 9 minutes,
Yeah.
all of college. So
Easy.
what happened sophomore year for me was a lack of commitment, man. I did not commit to college yet. Even though I wanted it, I still struggled with distractions. And this was like the foundation of how our relationship built. And this is one reason why we named the podcast Iron Sharpens Iron, right? Is because of our relationship that developed through college. And so this is the start of that foundation. We roomed together and we butt heads a lot at the beginning. Like there was a lot of times you would leave just saying, I need some space. I would leave, I need some space. We come back, we would make things up, but there was a lot of disagreements at the beginning just because you have West Coast and East Coast trying to clash into the same, 10 by 10 dorm room,
It's also 28-year-old me and 18-year-old you.
Yeah.
I had, what I would say is maturity on my side of
Absolutely.
like just like I had some
Just
things
life.
and you had some things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just unequal yokes at the time. Like it
Yeah.
was one of those things that we had to
Yeah.
work through.
I was still getting on my punk phase of wanting to be the center of attention, but also be an introvert. And then,
Then you moved in with me.
and then dealing with you, Mr. Extrovert, saying, hold the chapel door for everyone, like, cause you did
I never told you to do that. Never, not once.
You did
came
suggest it.
alongside
I
me.
did not say,
I said you should.
You should be like, hey, I get up and I go hold the door for everyone. That could get you out there. You should come hold it with me. And I said,
Boom.
no. I said, no. Yep. And I did eventually help once in a while, but I didn't commit to that. That was your thing. But sophomore year, we laid the foundation for our relationship and we opened up a lot to each other. We started to share our past that we were comfortable with. Not to the level that obviously today, but we shared why we struggle with some things. Some of our addictions came out the second semester that we were able to be accountability partners with each other. And you reminded me that I said this and I don't remember you. So I might misquote myself on this one, which is funny, but you said that I said, I want to commit to this relationship with each other. I don't remember how I said it. You won't have to remind me. What did I say?
You had said, man, I'm forgetting right now. You had said that you were ready. You wanted. Oh, this was about. I know what you're talking about now. You mean when we talked about your family? When we first moved in, you had said you don't want just. By the way, your background just went out.
Oh, for all the video viewers, this is my pet peeve right here. I have to have my background on because it looks dope. Don't look at my passcode. Just joking. All right, sorry.
Hot Matt 92.
No, my Snapchat used to be Matt1 Hot 98 or 28. I don't remember. Anyways, got the girls. No, I didn't.
Anyways,
all right.
You had told me when first moving in together that you didn't just want an average friend in college. You wanted someone who was a part of your family, someone you could always have, someone you could do life with, and not,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, dang, that's something to say. Like, that's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
it's because your past roommate had not done that, and he had
Oh yeah,
shunned you. He had shunned your
bro.
family away, and so
Man, he
our
pushed my
whole
family
start.
away.
Yeah, and I had asked, I think at one point, like, hey, why did you guys split being roommates?
Yeah,
Because
that was like the
obviously, and
first week. Yeah.
well, yeah, we had to like get to know each other, and I was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
man, let me get to know what your past looks like. Like, what happened? Why did you switch roommates like that? Like, sounds like it was rough. And then that's when
Mm-hmm.
you've been like, man, when I'm coming to college, man, I wanted to have a friend for life, not just some
Mm-hmm.
freaking some dude to do college with and then stop talking to him. And
That's the
oh,
key, friend for life, right? Like that's the quote
yeah,
that has stuck with you, and it's actually lived out pretty not simply. It's been hard, but like it's lived out, right? To where for me, by the end of that first year together, sophomore year, I realized that what I had said came to life. Like we were at that point not giving up, and it's
yeah,
crazy what can happen in a year, you know. But for me, man, that year, I finally committed to a major. I was undeclared for 2 years, and by the end of that second year, between you and talking to Mama Kay, Kelly Estes, and all that, I kind of landed. And a very important situation, I helped out with a lock-in with my dad as a youth minister on a break, and I remember just enjoying the tar out of it. And so I committed to youth ministry um, because college did not accept me for music ministry. I forgot to mention that first year. Man, I applied for music minister. They said, "Yeah, you're welcome to come to Johnson, but not for that." And there was reasons. Their reasons are their reasons. You know, I'm not going to get into that, but I was more than adequate. They just were a little picky because the music program was just starting, to be honest, and they have to be picky with that, and I respect that. And it was a God thing. I can't get mad. So yeah, I ended up youth ministry by the end of the second year, and that was my next big event was choosing youth ministry for my life. So, what was sophomore year like for you?
uh, man, sophomore year. I want to say sophomore year for me was really just doubling down on getting focused on doing. I mean, I was doing what I needed to do. I just
Yeah.
needed to live in freaking Miss Kelly's office. Like, I just
Yeah.
needed to be there because being out of school for 10 years was hard.
Hmm.
Not understanding what it took to focus my life solely on getting my, and I also was trying to deal with getting through a long distance relationship, which
Hmm.
was failing miserably because, it just wasn't working out. And so broke up with the girlfriend and, um, started focusing on school more. So really, sophomore year was about how can I academically set myself up for success.
Yeah.
And I remember Kelly Estes had brought me into just doing, having a planner,
Yeah.
planning my day out, and I was
Highlighting
like,
the
oh,
planner. Yeah.
that changed my life drastically. To this day, I
Hmm.
still have I still have a
Bro, it drives me
plan.
crazy. I don't have a planner and I know I need one, but I just can't commit
Yeah.
to it.
Oh yeah, I just sent you that the day, didn't I?
Yeah, you sent
I
me a
sent you the
picture. Send me a picture of
yeah.
his calendar. I do not do this. My wife does this because I fail at it. Yeah, look at that. That's all planned out, nice and balanced.
There's
Hmm.
blue, blues,
So in
blue,
January,
green, red, all those.
you all will
Yeah.
see this by January. You all will know where Adam's at. Don't stalk him.
No, you won't, because technically they're initialed, so you don't know what they are.
Oh,
YG, MM. They're not like, I
yeah,
don't know.
but no,
Anyways,
you're very well organized because of that moment in your life.
bro, I was very disorganized.
Yeah,
College helped me grow up tremendously because I didn't know I needed to grow up, honestly.
yeah.
And that's as a 28
You were
year old man
mature
not
in
grown
the
up.
worldly sense, you know what I'm saying? Like to where like you could handle bills, you could handle that type of stuff, but on the school and business side, career wise,
Nope,
nothing. Yeah, and it was the same
nope.
here. We both went through that together because I was in Kelly's office sophomore year. I wasn't in there as much as you were, but
Yeah,
by
yeah.
junior year, I realized I needed to. So, anyways, go ahead, continue. Sorry.
No, you're good. That's about all sophomore year was
Yeah.
really just academically focusing, putting all the other stuff aside and saying
Hmm.
school is most important because if I'm gonna
Yeah.
stay in Knoxville, Tennessee, and not move all the way back to freaking Arizona, I need
Yeah.
to focus.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then it moves into junior year, and man, I was full swing. Sophomore year, if I'm correct, was yeah. It was the summer that um, I went to do camp teams,
Yeah. Camp teams because I
which
went.
was
Yeah.
huge.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was huge. I loved camp teams. It was a great time. I mean, I don't know if any of that's important really to the
We can get
testimony
into that
part.
later.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's just say, so I can honestly boil it out because we're almost at 40 and I want to make
Yeah.
sure that I
Okay. You're good.
attest that. I can say sophomore, junior, and senior year were very similar in the sense that I wanted to focus on two things. One, academically maintaining and ensuring that I was focused.
Yeah.
And two, building our relationship, our friendship.
Yeah.
And three, obviously, was staying focused on God. Like,
Yeah.
I can say that was obviously always a thing, but I think it really boiled down to it junior to senior year of
Hmm.
what God was calling me to,
Yeah.
and ensuring that God was even moving in that. And I
Hmm.
can still say that it didn't work out the way I planned, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Which we'll get into. Yeah. And I can say the exact same thing. I think that's one reason why our relationship just blossomed so fast because we had the
Yeah,
same mentality. After that first year, the first year was tough, but after that, we both got on this like the same page of school's the most important thing. We need to focus, we need to grind it. And not only that, our spiritual lives just blossomed also. Sophomore year, I was a rebel. I didn't go to church a lot. You would leave on Sunday and I would stay sleeping in, but then junior and senior year, we were going to church together. We went to chapel together and we're worshiping together and building that relationship too, which I
mm.
cherish those moments. Both of us cannot sing, but it was awesome anyways,
A
like
joyful noise, okay, a joyful noise.
we lived it out. And so it was one of those, the difference was for me, I was still trying to find my identity during college
Yeah,
because I was so involved in trying to find a wife and to have that support besides a best friend. I wanted a wife, and I was told ring by spring was the thing, but the ring didn't come by spring at all. And so it was tough, to where senior year we graduated 2020, COVID, no graduation. They kicked
mm.
us out basically. Um,
Yeah,
and you had camp teams. That summer, I went on a all boys church camp and worked out there in Black Mountain, North Carolina or South Carolina. Anyways, so we both had our big moments throughout those 3 years that kind of kept catapulting us forward. But the biggest thing for
well,
me was number one during college, we overcame some addictions
yeah,
to where they weren't life crippling anymore. They still had a little bit of a hold on us, but they weren't life crippling anymore. And that was a big thing. And I feel like we need to point that out because of this whole Iron Sharpens Iron thing. We helped each other mold closer to Christ. There was
for sure.
conversations we had to where we were staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning. There was times to where, we were men, so we didn't cry in front of each other. But as soon as the covers went up over our head, I bawling my eyes out type thing. Like, it was just like, it was hard. We had to break down and build back up. We would work out together. We spent everything together because we were truly friends. And so that was big. Senior happens though. I had to switch roommates for my first semester because you were gone, and your internship.
Internship.
That
Hmm.
was tough for me because I felt like I lost the best friend forever, even though it wasn't forever. We would still call once in a while.
Yeah,
Not that he was a bad roommate. He was a good roommate. He just had a girlfriend, so I wasn't a priority. Um,
yeah.
and then second semester, got back together. Sound like we are dating. We weren't dating, but we were roommates again. And
It was
then,
a running joke that we were
yeah, it
married.
was. My mom always said, "Are you all married? You act like a married couple." Sorry, mom. I love you. She's definitely listening right now.
Guaranteed she's listening.
Yeah, no, she is definitely listening. And so with that, after senior year, I went to, this is where our next big transition is. I went to my internship because we both were required for our degree to have an internship, right? And I was able to go to one back in my home state of Kentucky, 20 minutes from where I grew up. It was a blessing, at Leesburg Christian Church. And then that's where you went to your master's program. And
Yeah,
so if we were to sum those two up, for me, it was basically getting experience and knowing where I needed to work harder. Right. I got my foot in the door. I experienced a church of 600, 650, which is big for Kentucky and the area that I was at. Obviously not as big as what you were experiencing at Arizona at CCV, where you got your master's. Um,
hmm,
but for me, I wasn't getting any more education. I was actually developing my ministry skills in moment to where after the internship, I was actually hired on as family minister at Leesburg for a year. And then they realized it wasn't a fit. There's reasons for that. we might get into it in the future. I don't know. But I was let go basically. And that's where I'll stop my story to let you continue after college. What happened during your
No,
master's program?
I mean, the biggest thing, I don't even need to take a long time for this. I was able to go back and do the thing that I didn't get to do because
Yeah.
I was too immature at the time. So I finally matured to be able to do something, but it wasn't just as a residency, it was actually to get a master's this time. So
Yeah.
that was really cool and a really big accomplishment. But at the same time, I think I can sum up both of our experiences in one word, and that's just saying humbling.
Oh,
We
bro.
needed
Yes.
we needed to be humbled, both of us, because I felt like we both, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we both were just we were so confident in all the things we'd done over 4 years that we were ready to
Yeah.
go out there and crush ministry.
Yeah.
Like we were ready to go
Hmm.
out and change lives for Jesus, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was for our own sake and not for
Yeah.
God's sake, is what
I
I would
agree
say, at
with
least on
that.
my part.
No,
Like
I agree with that 100%
I
because
was ready to build the kingdom of Adam.
yeah, yeah.
Let's
Well, but
go.
the thing is, eventually we said it was kingdom of God, even though it was what we were living out, the kingdom of Adam, kingdom of Matthew. And here's the thing: we're trained that way in a mindset with school. They hype us up enough. You can do this. You can go out there. You can kick butt for God. But they forget to say, hey, don't forget to keep your mentality on God. And I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
knocking Johnson, and I'm not knocking the professors out there, right? All the professors had a big influence on us.
yeah,
We didn't even get to mention the big professors that had influence over us. That would just check in on us once in a while. Like, it is so important. But it's like in the classroom, there wasn't a classroom on, hey, you're a minister. When is the last time you got in the Bible for yourself? You
facts.
know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And so during this moment, I would agree it was a humbling experience because I remember you would call me and I would be like, well, at Leesburg we do it this way, and I've experienced this, and it's a church 600, it's an experience, and I thought I was this because right out the gate I got to a church 600, and I thought I was that guy, um, and you're getting your master's, you're that guy. I remember telling you, like, I would never have a master's, I'm not that guy. And you're like, well, I got a master's, and it's just like our heads got big subconsciously, to
mm,
where we didn't realize it, to where after that I was let go. Huge humbling experience. I remember I had to drop my dog off at mom's that day, the day they let me go, and I didn't even, like, she didn't know what was happening. All of a sudden I see her, we make eye contact, and before she says what's wrong, like, she knew something was wrong. And before she said what's wrong, I
yeah,
started bawling my eyes out. Like, it was such a humbling experience because I thought I had everything, and God just took it away. Um,
mm,
and that's kind of where without getting to details, we could even fast forward for your life, even, I feel
oh
like,
yeah,
to where God
easily.
took everything away. Like, what happened with that?
Mhm.
So after
Yeah.
the master's program, where'd you
Um,
go?
mm. I wound up as a kids director at Southeast Christian Church,
In Kentucky.
in in
Yeah.
in in Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
We
Yes,
were 2 hours away. We hung out like every other weekend. It was great.
yeah, it was. I loved it. It was a great time. But again, I can sum all of it up by saying I was not focused on the right things.
Yeah.
I was doing ministry for myself, and I was not reminding myself of exactly what Matthew just said, which is staying in God's word for myself and my own
Mm.
relationship with God. When I got that job, I immediately think that I checked a box and said, okay, I'm doing ministry now. So now I don't have to worry about my own
Mm.
relationship because that comes along with ministry.
Yeah. Wrong.
Not wrong. So I was building up the kingdom of Adam still, honestly.
Yeah.
And my head was bigger than ever because I got the ministry degree, I got the CCV degree, I got all the things, man. And here I
Mm.
am, kids director in charge
Big
of another
church.
full time person,
Yeah.
big church, a lot of kids. Like I was living it up, man. I got the car, I got the house,
I
I
miss that
got
car.
all of the. I miss my truck.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I miss my truck.
Yeah.
But all of that, again, building me up, building me
Yeah.
up,
Yeah. Yeah.
building me up. And I feel like this whole time, like Satan's in the background going,
I can't wait
yeah,
for this.
I got it. I got him. I got
Yeah. Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And I'm being built up. And again, the whole time, like, it's not like it was bad because it was a great time and I learned a lot.
You did. Yeah.
But what ended up happening though is I did not focus on God. And what happens when you don't focus on God is you don't see the things in your life that are unhealthy.
Mm.
So again, here we go with the theme. a woman walks into my
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
and I fall again. And
Mhm.
if you're listening and if you're watching, there are themes in your life that you should watch out for.
Yeah.
One of those in my own life, if you haven't heard it already, is women are a bad thing for me.
Yeah.
Not that they're bad in general. It's just that I have a very bad what's the word? I just have a really bad time boundaries with women, I guess, for some
Yeah.
reason. And I think over this time finally learned how to, um, which is great.
Yeah.
But I've had to make quite a few mistakes.
Yeah.
Anyways, once again, a woman comes into my life, and once again, I fail miserably.
Yeah.
But this time around, I did it differently.
Yeah.
This time around, I actually went straight to my boss and told him what was going on in my life.
Yeah. They didn't find out until that moment.
Yeah, they never knew. They never found out. I didn't wait weeks at a time. I waited a couple days, not even. I think it was like 24 hours, and I was in his office telling him what was going on in my life. Little did I know that I would be essentially fired from them. Like it just did. Yeah, they gave a couple months to decide things, but after that, I ended up losing my position and being told to step down. So here I am losing everything in my life
Yeah.
again. That was built up that I feel like I achieved. I feel like I lost it all. And man, here I am on the couch the day after I get, let go. And I just sat there going, why am I doing this? And I started going down that hole again. And I called you, and you didn't really make it much better, unfortunately, at that time, because I think you were going through something too.
I was.
And it just wasn't, Iron Sharpens Iron is a thing, but sometimes we have to go through things separately to sharpen ourselves, and that's okay because you
Well,
still
that's when you need to
supported
rely
me.
on God. Yeah.
Yeah, I needed to at that time. Like, I needed to rely on God. And at that moment, when I got off the phone with all the people I did talking about everything, I was just like, I don't feel better at all.
Yeah.
And all I remember is sitting in my house is going, God, why? Why did this have to happen? And then God was like, and God's never snarky, and I know this, but I felt like in that moment, God was like, this is why you're
Yeah.
talking to me.
Yeah.
I needed you to see me.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, this isn't how I wanted it. And God was like,
Yeah.
this isn't how I wanted it either.
But this is the only way it's going to work.
But this is the only way that God puts your eyes back on him.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I just remember going, okay, I submit, God. I'm gonna do whatever you ask me to do. And I took a couple weeks to figure out what my plan was, and here I am back in California. I never thought I'd be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, through those circumstances, we were able to come back together. Like it's not that we separated at any point in time. It's just that we were going through something separately,
Yeah.
and we both had to focus on God.
Yeah.
The relationship never ended. We never stopped talking. But the cool part is we started growing in our relationship with God more. And this is where I would say our mindset shifted on relying on each other to rely on God.
Yeah.
Because what you went through was epically as hard.
Yeah. Which I'll talk about in a little bit, but yeah.
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 But what I went through obviously was super epically hard for me, but it all had to center around finding God.
Yeah.
Where did that go? And I had to find God again.
Yeah.
And I found a church called Sandals. And man, it has been the most amazing experience finding God all over again and focusing on him and doing life with God, not for God, with God. And hear that when I say you need to do life with God and not for him. Because you can do a lot of things for God, but if you never do it with him, it ain't worth it.
Yeah.
And I hope you hear that. Whoever's out there, I hope you hear that. You need to. And so anyways, go ahead and finish out with yours.
Yeah. So, when you were going through the whole Southeast thing, I actually landed at another church about the time Leesburg let go of me is when you were accepted onto Southeast about the same time. And I was unemployed for a little bit. I did my own thing with construction. I have a history of construction work throughout college. I was doing that. So I just picked up construction jobs and was doing that to pay the bills. But then my last thing I did with Leesburg, the church I was at, which by the way, I want to say this, Leesburg was awesome. I love everyone there. I would call them up in a heartbeat and say, thank you for helping me grow. It just didn't work out. Like, I want to just be very clear on that. I don't want to bash them at all. A lot of times I found myself sounding that way, even though I don't mean it that way. And so I'm not bashing them. But the last thing I did was I did church camp. I was heavily involved with Camp Northward. And I was deaning their high school week. And because of COVID, they were struggling. And so we decided that year to combine middle school and high school weeks together. And so we had a packed week, right? And over half of them were from Leesburg. At the end of the week, they were all like bawling their eyes out because they knew that was the last time they're going to see me, because that was my last week at Leesburg. And so then Sunday after church camp, I wasn't going to be there. And so they were all emotional. And little teenage girl at the time, she's not a teenager anymore, she's in college, Naomi, I'll name drop her all day. She does not care. She is an angel. And God used her big in my life. She said, my church is looking for a youth minister. And I said, no. I said, I don't think so. I think I'm done, actually. But between her and her consistent prayers, she told me the other day, like last year, she prayed every day after church camp. Every day she prayed for me to come out here to New Hope, where I'm at now. And I didn't believe her until I asked her mom, and her mom was like bawling her eyes out saying, no, she really did. And I was like, oh, shut up. That's so wild. But power of prayer, different story. But I remember my grandpa saying, hey, because my grandpa co-deaned with me. And he's like, hey, have you called New Hope yet? And I was like, no, I'm not going to. He said, I think you should. A couple of weeks went by and he said, hey, did you call New Hope? And I was like, no. He's like, all right, I'm going to hang up. If I call back and you did not call New Hope, I'm driving, picking you up and taking you out there to New Hope. I said, oh, really, Grandpa, don't put that on me. Right. And so sure enough, he hangs up and I'm like, I don't want Grandpa to drive all the way out here and then take me out there. It's just stupid. I was like, all right, whatever. And so I pulled up the senior minister's phone number because I had it. His name's Kirk. And I was getting ready to hit call. Right. And all of a sudden it rings and Kirk calls me. Like in the same exact moment, I was like, shut up. And I knew in that moment it was a God thing. It was like one of those, like, I was from that moment confident I'm ending up at New Hope, but I didn't want to accept it. And so I was being a rebel for a little bit. So I answered it and we talked and got an interview. The week before the interview, my truck breaks. Both rear shock rust mounts, like the shock mounts rusted out to where I could not drive it. And so I had no vehicle, an interview to happen that week. And so I started looking for a truck, ended up through God, got a very reliable truck, still rocking it. And ended up here at New Hope. Year goes by, going great. Second year goes by, even better. I met someone. She has headphones in. My wife. Shh, I met my wife. And I'm blushing. And so I meet my wife and we started dating. I went the very traditional route, asking her dad for permission to date type thing. He said yes, and everything was going great for 3 months. And then I got to be careful. Last time I did not word this the right way. Through unfortunate circumstances out of mine and Cindy's control, her father decided to call off the relationship. I'll leave it at that. Nothing was happening immoral. It was all very healthy. And because of that, me and Cindy we couldn't talk. It was clear communication cut off. And so with that, that was the moment when you had your situation at Southeast. That's the moment that happened for me. I lost the love of my life. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It's so real to me still. I started developing anxiety attacks. I remember there was one night I just woke up from an anxiety attack. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I passed out, but I found myself like rubbing my heart. Like I was just like, it was my anxiety tick. And I'm just like, what is happening to me? Right. And so this really shifted my mentality to where even though I was healing from Leesburg situation at New Hope, Kirk has been awesome with that. He has helped me heal 100%, right? And mentoring me and guiding me to not find Christ, but to live out ministry while I was trying to find Christ. Does that make sense? So I was still finding Christ by myself, like you were talking about. This moment, it was us not relying on each other, but finding a way to rely on God. And Kirk supported me on my ministry side through that process. And so through time, situation happens. Sydney was able to make things happen to where she was independent, living on her own, and we got back together. Sydney is my wife's name, by the way, if you didn't know that. Now you do. And so, best thing ever, we ended up getting married, and couldn't be happier. That has been a huge blessing. She's a great ministry partner. Could not ask for better. She still has headphones in. Can you hear me? I'm talking about you. Why? Because I can. You're cute. Love you. And so, anyways, she's studying for licensure for. Anyways, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that was my season. That was my season of finding God again. To where I started to invest more in my relationship with God than, like I have a library full of concordances and stuff, and I would never pick them up unless it was for a sermon or a lesson. Oh, sorry. My wife says library, not library. I rolled my eyes. I did. I love you. And so with that, I started to get my Bible for me again, and especially, being married, having a daily time with me and Cindy, getting in our Bible. Even though it was a small moment in our grand scheme of things, it's been a big blessing to where now here I am still at New Hope. I started my 4th year, and it's rocking it. I'm in Kentucky, you're in California, and we've realized this is like a good conclusion, I guess. You could realize that through us having these conversations of, man, we've been through a lot. We're like, dude, no, this is more than just us going through this. There's other people that are going through stuff too. How can we help them experience what we've experienced with each other? And boom, Iron Sharpens Iron was born, right? We decided to commit to this, whether we have one person listening or however many God chooses. We're committing to this because we know that biblically, Proverbs 27:17 says, "Iron sharpens iron." Okay, and so
One man sharpens another.
listen, that's been a big thing in our lives. And one day I want you to get out the sword I made for you, not this episode, but I made him an awesome, like in college. Remember that I made you.
Yeah, that was the last thing you did.
The last thing right before college, we moved out. I was like, dude, Adam, I got to do something. So I made him a little plaque that holds a sword that I made. It's out of wood, but then I etched in Proverbs 27:17 because this is our life verse. We have lived this out to the max, and we will continue to. Phone calls, hard times. Right now, Adam's going through another season of his life to where he's called me recently, and he's like, dude, this is what's happening. I'm like, whoa, okay, let's do it. What's the next step? Are you on the path with God? And so through these episodes, you'll hear us talk about what's going on in our lives, and maybe it pertains to you, maybe it doesn't, but the reality is, nonetheless, we're going to pertain to Scripture to where we can still grow closer to God too. We're going to involve that 100% because we have a biblical perspective, and what the Bible says goes. That is the truth that we live by. And we're not going to have corruption of opinions that the world has. We're going to try to be as biblical as possible. So, dude, I'm excited. I mean, that's our stories up to this point. Iron sharpens iron. Hopefully it goes however God wants it to, and we can find that will. I believe in a couple episodes you'll hear about that, how to find God's will in your life. And so our prayer is that whoever listens to this, maybe you're not a Christian. That's cool. Enjoy the funny stuff that we do, the funny comments we say, right? But I pray that you find God, but also if you are Christian, I pray that this makes you have a deeper relationship with him. And especially if you're a minister, I know some of our minister buddies will probably be listening to this podcast. Listen, find you a buddy. Don't do ministry alone. Find a way to sharpen your iron. Find a way to fellowship, because the reality is without fellowship, it's going to be very hard, which is in another podcast in the future. So you can tell we're already loaded up with topics, guys. So binge watch the first 5, dude. Just cram them out because it builds the foundation for what we hope Iron Sharpen Iron can be. I'm just excited. And this has been a long time coming. Like at this podcast moment, we already have done so much work. Yeah. Even though we messed up and had to re-record, no big deal. But we're excited. Yeah.
Yeah. I would second that, and I would just go to say this has been a long time coming. How many phone calls that Matthew and I have had where at the end of it I'm just like, man, this is more, man. This is crazy. I love what we get to do. And I've said that for like years coming. Yeah. And I just remember being like, man, we need to make a podcast. And
Dude, I remember that phone call, dude.
He thought I was joking, and I was just like, bro, like, I think we should do this. Like, it makes sense, because after every conversation, I'm always like, dude, I feel better about where I am in my relationship with God.
Mhm.
I feel stronger in what direction I'm going to be going in.
Yeah.
And I just feel like what we do is more than that. And then I look up and, like, you know, your plaque thing's hanging above the door, and I'm just like, bro, iron sharpens iron, brother. Like,
Your door. Sorry, I was like, my door. Sorry.
No, and I just remember looking at it. I'm like, bro, iron sharpens iron. Like, dude, we are that. And hear the birth of this podcast. Like, it's not for clout. It's not for reputation. It's not for getting a bajillion followers. If that is God's will, let it be done.
Yeah.
But I can assure you that the heart behind both of us is that what this platform does more than anything is point you towards Jesus.
Yeah.
We hope that if you're younger, you can use our examples to help build your life. I know there are people out there. I know there are people who are going to listen who may be younger. Please use our lives as an example of things not to do and things to do. Yeah. Because we both have messed up. We both are not perfect. We both are trying to walk this thing called life. And when I thought about this podcast, when we thought about this podcast, the whole point was like, man, we hear a lot of times people saying a lot of things, but like, how do you do it? Like, people just point to the Bible and start, preaching out of it. That's great. But how does that apply to your life?
Yeah.
And so hopefully this podcast is a platform for you to see the topic, to hear the topic, know what it biblically says, and then use it to apply it to your life directly. Yeah. Because the last thing we want to do, and you guys can check us on this, the last thing that we want to do is create something where it's just talking about Jesus and never actually living it out. So if you feel like we're not doing that, please feel free, comment section, let us know that we're doing something difficult or different than what we intended.
Yeah.
But the
DM
goal
us on
behind
Instagram.
But yeah, the heart behind this, man, is that you, and not only you mean the viewer, but you, Matthew, and me, Adam, that we all continue to iron sharpens iron. Like through these episodes, we are hashing things out, guaranteed.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't talk about it. Like, literally, it's raw. It's like, oh, I didn't hear that from Adam before.
Yeah. This is not practiced. I want you all to know this is definitely not practiced. And most of the time, this is fresh in our minds, and we're just going off of something that's happening in our lives. And so, please listen. Please comment. Please share the things you're getting from this as well. And most of all, man, continue to sharpen your own iron by not only listening to this podcast, but reading God's word.
Yeah, get in the Bible.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Yeah, no, for sure. How it came out is you had the idea, we made it happen. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that we had to do research to try to make it happen, but it worked, man. It's been a God thing to make it a reality. So we hope that God will continue to use it, and that's our prayer. So yeah, I think with that, Adam, I think it's safe to say we'll see you next time, and stay sharp.
Yeah, but with that, I'm Adam.
Oh, sorry. No, you're right. Okay, we practiced this whole outro. We did practice that. We failed. Let me start over. And with that, I've been Matthew.
You failed. You failed.
And with that, I've been Matthew.
And I've been Adam.
Stay sharp.
Stay sharp.